July 30, 2018, the date for elections is set. The race is now in the final stretch. In just under 2 months' time, we are going out to vote in the general election. It's going to be a different election to anything we saw in the past. We have new candidates on the ballot. We have a new boss at the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. We have international observers from all over the world. And we also have new election laws. Now that the president has set the date, things are going to be moving a lot faster. So this week, we just want to take a step back a bit and look at where we are. We want to look at what ZEC has done so far and what ZEC is yet to do. First, some changes have been made to the Electoral Act. This is the law that tells ZEC how to run elections. Let's go through just some of those changes. Every candidate must now sign a code of conduct. In the code, a candidate promises not to use violence, threats, or intimidation. It even says no candidate should not use bribes or lie about an opponent. Imagine that, a campaign without bribes and lies. If this was strictly enforced, we would run out of all candidates. Remember the controversy in 2013 when people could vote using voter slips? It's no longer allowed. And remember in 2008 when it took 3 months to declare the winner of the presidential election? Not happening. Results of the presidential election must now be declared within 5 days. Better than 3 months, but still a lot. Remember all those stories about even teachers claiming to be literate so that they could be assisted to vote? A lot harder to do this time. Another new rule is that if someone goes to court to challenge the election, the court must decide within 6 months. Remember Morgan Tsvangirai's petition against the 2002 election is still pending in the courts, 16 whole years later. These are just some of the changes. It's an improvement from 2013, but is it enough? Well, the MDC Alliance doesn't think so. The coalition has put out its demands. Here are just some of them. Number 1, the voters' roll. The MDC wants the provisional voters' roll released now. ZEC says the final roll will release days before the nomination court. The nomination court is where candidates are registered. That will be on June 14. The MDC also wants the roll to be audited externally, but ZEC says the law doesn't allow for that. 2. The MDC wants an open tender for the ballot paper printing.
So we are concerned that the tender process with regards to the procurement of the ballot paper has been bypassed. We are concerned that there is a veil of secrecy that surrounds the company that has been awarded the tender.
The party wants to be involved in picking the company that prints the ballot. What ZEC has done is to say parties can go in and watch the ballots being printed, but ZEC won't allow for the parties to be involved in picking the printer. Again, ZEC says that this is not in the law. 3. The MDC says ZEC has secretly set up extra polling stations. ZEC says no, these are sub-polling stations at existing polling stations to make sure there's no overcrowding on voting day. There's a lot of disagreement, so the MDC is hitting the streets. The plan is to march to ZEC and to the president's office. The opposition has never marched to Munumtaba before. Home Affairs Minister Obed Mpofu is saying to the MDC, yeah, you can march, just not to the president's office. But the MDC says they have every right to do that. This is the first major protest against the government since the president took over. How will he handle it? Will there be batons and tear gas like we've seen used before under Mugabe? One major point. This protest will be happening just about the same time when the president will be hosting British investors in Harare. Big decisions for him. How far can he be pushed without reacting the way ZANU-PF has always reacted to protests? This is where we are, and it feels like we've made progress, but just not enough. This is what ZEC needs to know. ZEC says the MDC demands are not within the law. Maybe. But here's the truth. There's a history here. It's not about law alone. It's about confidence and trust. ZEC has to restore confidence. To do that, doing things by the book isn't enough. ZEC needs to do a whole lot more. After letting Nelson Chamisa take the lead, President Emmerson Mnangagwa has finally hit the campaign trail. Chamisa's ran a marathon. The president is trying to run a sprint. He launched his rallies in Mutare, then he hit Buhera. In the past week, he has done rallies in Gweru and Chegutu. Chamisa in the meantime has so far done at least 40 rallies. He's gone from Mashingo to Chinoi, Murewa to Beitbridge, Plumtree to Marange. Chamisa is preaching change. He's preaching youth. He's saying it's time for our generation, the majority, we the young people, to take over. To a lot of young people across the country, this is a strong message. They want jobs, they want opportunity, they want a leader they can identify with. So we've been waiting to see what the president would be preaching. Yes, we saw the posters and the adverts, but we wanted to hear him lay out his campaign in person. Over the past few rallies, we're beginning to see a bit about what this message is all about. Here's what we can make out so far. The president is selling himself as a reformer. He's trying to make sure that voters don't focus on his record as part of ZANU-PF. He wants them to focus on his economic plans for the future. After almost 40 years on Mugabe's side, it's a tough one for him. So he's working overtime to tell voters that he's the guy to provide steady, mature leadership needed to bring economic progress. In Chegutu, he made sure to speak about farming and mining. These are two issues that are a big deal in Mash West. He made a lot of promises to farmers in Makorokoza. Makorokoza also dominated his speech in the Midlands, where there's plenty of them. While the president is talking about mature leadership, his campaign team knows he still needs to appeal to the young population. That's why we're seeing some Zim dancehall stars at rallies, Say Colors, Sniper Storm, Soldier Love. But above all that, Mnangagwa is sticking to his open for business message. He's speaking a lot of numbers at his rallies. All the billions he says have been promised by investors. He's talking about GDP figures, about power supply from Wange to Kariba. We even saw him trying to school his audience on what per capita income means. Basically, the president is trying to say, vote for me. I'm the steady, mature, progressive leader. But will this work? Voters have heard all these big numbers before. Back in 2013, ZANU-PF promised that its indigenization policy would bring over $1 trillion into the economy. The 4.5 million jobs ZANU-PF claims it created, the 1.2 million houses it wants to build. Does all this stuff really change voters' minds? A lot of folks don't even know what a manifesto is, but they're still voting.
Isi nyaya musanganisita pani kwangu atikambodainzwa na mai Mnangagwa kuti amuone kwatinojara miti.
Panhu zvinonzi manifesto izvi zvedu kuti tive tizozati zvinorevei zvinhu zvekuti tangasatambozvidzidziswa.
Zvinoreva kuwirirana kwevanhu vane vadaita zvepolitics vana vada kuvhotera munhu.
Manifesto zvinomborevei makambonzwa nezvazvo here?
Aiwa ndinombozvinzwa.
Hamusati matombotumana newedhiro rino?
Handisati ndambotumana naro.
Speaking of manifestos, where's the MDCs? Do they even have one prepared, or will they bank on Chamisa's youthfulness as an economic blueprint? Which makes for the perfect segue. Does truth even matter in these elections? If Chamisa talks about advising Kagame, does that really change his supporters' minds? And if ZANU talks about its building of houses, 100 per day, will that change the views of its own supporters? Maybe not. It's important for us to separate fact from fiction. But the truth is this: our supporters don't care a lot about those anymore. We see this every day online. People will defend their candidates, whatever they say, no matter what. We have to accept this reality, that the elections are about emotion, not facts. Politicians know this. The campaign has so far been about issues, but as the day gets closer, politicians are going to make it more about emotions, not facts. They're going to try whip up our emotions. They're going to try and make sure that we ignore the issues. But we have to remain focused. We have to keep our eyes on the numbers, on the facts, on the issues. So brace yourselves. The date has been set, and it's going to be a mad dash to the finish.